we set a large expectation. So, yeah, so those are the good old days. Sometimes I think it becomes nostalgic to think that there was a time when we used to meet students and teach. Almost in 6 months, we have been forced into getting into an online platform. So, but I would not say that. So I'm, as introduced, the director founder of Compass Academy. We basically run an senior school for students who do commerce, and I also run a career counseling firm called Ambition. So we do events. So two things which I do became digital now, and I have a first-hand experience in terms of acquiring technology. Of course, Bala, I guess, has a first-hand experience with the technology, so he does have a hands-on understanding of it. But uh, so I will tell more in terms of a person who runs a business and who already has a setup, and what kind of an opportunities, challenges, issues which we faced. And I will also talk about teaching versus learning in an online platform. So that is what I'll try to figure out in this space of role of technology in education. So I will start with my first part of it. In about 2006, I'm not wrong, the institute which I used to work for, we had a strange issue. We expanded. We had multiple centers, but in few centers we only had one or two students. Now the issue is you can't put in a faculty for teaching one or two students. So we said, how can we take it a little larger? And we started looking at e-learning platforms. And we went back and started searching for many companies which were offering e-learning platforms. And then I realized that they were way too expensive for us to handle because they were handling clients like Microsoft and other big companies. But they already digitalized a lot of their e-learning. So this is actually nothing new. I would say the process maybe has started a long time back. But we had to step back at that time and said, let's do a live sessions using WebEx. But thanks to the technology and internet speed during those times, it has actually changed quite a bit over the years. And that's the reason why we couldn't do it at that time. Fast forward another 4 years, a little later on, we again tried our tool by using some online learning platforms. But when it came to subjects like accounting and other related aspects, we found it very tough. Now, when we had to run multi-center units, furthermore, all faculties were not similar. Everyone's adaptability to teaching online was not uh, something which we couldn't do. The most stranger part, which here comes and might sound interesting to few technologists, how many are self-motivated to go and see at the content placed online? How many are self-motivated to learn themselves? So sometimes it surprises when this Byju's or Uni Academy or the X number of online learning platforms which have come. I think some people have taken a step further. They're saying make a dent in the world, become a programmer at the young age, and they have been using. So this has become a great opportunity for many people where they said, how about using technology for learning? But the question again remains is teaching versus learning. How many are self-motivated to sit and learn by themselves is the question which is there. So again, fast forward to our Corona times 2020. I think there will be a pre and post era of COVID. I think later on the AC, BC will all change before Corona and after Corona will come in. And so the after Corona part is where we started an issue about in April, I guess. At the end of April, 1 month, suddenly all families started figuring out that the kids are at home, everyone is at home, and the phone time was way higher. Parents actually came back to us and said, can you do some foundation classes for the students to keep themselves occupied? So then we started searching. So we already have a setup, the whiteboards, the projectors, the audio systems, and whatever a college will essentially make a library with books and stuff. Now suddenly we found that all that infrastructure is almost of no use. I have to build a new infrastructure for using technology and how to basically enable it. Then we started dissecting and we ran through, just like most of the faculties did. I think teachers did across. We started figuring out which platform to use, whether it's Zoom or and the cost also is another factor because there's already existing cost and there's a new cost. So we said, what about, so then we found it's not just about teaching. There's one part is the live teaching. Once we started live teaching, then we figured out what about the content sharing? Then we had to figure out some learning management systems which will essentially help them in supporting the learning which is happening. What about the assessment system? What will we do about that? How will the assessment go? And in India, I'm sure people realize exam is a big thing. So though they hate it, but they expect it to happen. How would we conduct the examination system from a theoretical paper to a multi-choice based question? The fourth part was more interesting, especially the kind of senior school students we treat, or even I think the elder one, which I teach in the university. How to keep them occupied for the long time. The normal training sessions are an hour and odd. How to keep them occupied? So we found another part of gamification. So we had to invent essentially. Technology did play a very interesting role. What we used to deliver in an hour odd, because in a normal classroom to build a credibility, to start making a coordination with them. When I said physically, it's a different perspective than what you do online. Just in a joking manner, when in the initial days when we did live class, there was this question, what do you think about this? Everyone will start saying, if there are 50 in the class, yes, 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 yes. And then I have to wait for the SS to stop. And then I have to know who said no and who said yes. Then we realized there is something called a poll button for such kind of a thing. So it was an amazing. So I would say in these tough times for the for the learning to keep happening, technology did help. But then we also realized, I think in the future too, this will become a blended learning. I don't think if someone asks me what's the right time to invest in technology, I think it was yesterday, not now. It was yesterday. We should have done it before. To the faculty, how do we keep them engaged? I think the training can start with the best practices. Thanks to again technology. Today we don't need to search for guest lectures. They're right there in YouTube and other related places. So technology will support, but will not teach by itself. So we, even in the future, I guess blended learning will happen. Technology will supplement the physical learning space, which will happen. Maybe what we require to do is put up the infrastructure. And this is where the shortage has been happening. In most colleges, we build buildings, we build projectors, we build libraries, we build IT systems. But what about live streaming of the class which we teach? Now, as we realize that online classes, there's something on lighting, where do we see the camera, how does the questions come back to us? So we require to build the infrastructure in terms of exams, in terms of the learning management system, in terms of the live classroom sessions, not just platforms which are used for official meetings, but basically platforms dedicated to education. A simple thing, I still remember, there are some interesting students in the class which always make life more interesting. So when we teach and play a presentation, I think there's a space in Zoom called a note. We didn't need to switch it off. So someone picks up and starts drawing lines and beautiful pictures on the presentation. And then we realize, oh, there's a new problem here. So someone has to control something like that. So actually there should be an infrastructure set up. Now the governments here are talking about starting offline classes. But there are certain parents who said we're okay to have a 0 year rather than sending kids to home. Like I think Bala also was pointing, should I send them to an offline or an online class? It's safer. Health is important. But I guess there will be a blended learning, and we need to build that infrastructure required to do that. So we need to figure out an assessment system. We're required to a recording system. We're required to have a learning management system. We need to have maybe better cameras. Maybe we can't run with just a laptop and a single individual. Maybe something which can do the projection of classes. We're required to have an SOP for an online classes. How many minutes? What's the classroom timing? When should the breaks happen? How can you use gamification in between? What are the best practices there? Again, each one of these factors have a cost. I do not want to dwell into try naming certain technologies and stuff, because that's not my forte. I can only talk about what I'm using. When we started, we looked at almost 8 different platforms to see what can be used. So we do realize that there are some free, but there is a certain part to it when it becomes a cost. So it is not anymore a choice. So some people are right now, thanks to Google and Microsoft, they have been giving education institutions, I think almost free of cost, their platforms for usage. But it will be a matter of time when that will be left off. And maybe some people are still thinking this is something which will move and then we can move out of it. But I guess this is here to stay. Students would require a learning time. We see technology is actually makes life easier. I have to maintain attendance if I'm in a physical class. They have to check whether they have submitted their assignments. Then I have to also check whether they have been corrected. Then I have to check whether they have to be given a feedback. But with a good learning management system, so yeah, there will be a lot of data, but it's easy to manage that data because there are already analytics available in all learning management tools. There are tools which can actually tell you how much the student participated in the class. You can probably change the grading system, the traditional grading system of just attending class to participating in the class. So technology can do that. We individuals can't do it. So you can see the system. A person can become lethargic. System doesn't become lethargic. So as I said, it can record participation. It can record attendance. It can record the reading patterns of the students. It can also enable you to see how much the progress a student has made, where does he stuck, where does he need a help. This much amount of personal attention in a large classrooms are also possible. Imagine a regular school. Bala was saying he went to BITS 18 years back. I also came and visited BITS 18 years back. My cousin is there. The first thing which I felt when I went to this Pilani, I guess it was Pilani Healthy, is that I felt I should have studied a little harder. Maybe I've been in a better place. Now that it doesn't matter, you're in home. You can learn any of the technology which you wish to. So all we essentially, so technology can support, though there is a lot of data which will happen, but the technology will take care of the segregation of it, managing of it, getting you the analytics, better analytics than other things can do. The cost part, as I said again, it's not as expensive as the physical setup. And yeah, it's been talking about before also, whether technology can replace teaching physically. I don't think that will happen, but it will definitely supplement and make things better. See, it's like an evolution process. Humans, in the recent days, I have read a book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And he talks about evolution and he says that maybe in the future we might have superhumans. It's only been in the 4.5 odd billion years of human evolution process. I think it's just about 200 years back when we started realizing we're ignorant. Actually, it's a matter of laughing that we are talking about technology in education. Where is it, which industry doesn't have technology at all? I think the younger people like Sai Charan would be laughing. What are you talking about technology not being? It is actually only in education. I guess we have been a little, what I would call a little rigid in terms of adopting it in full context. But this COVID has essentially forced things a little more faster. So it will definitely, it has to be adopted right now. And the investment is an overhead expenditure.
So, Sharad sir,
yeah.
As you can conclude, I mean, time.
Yeah. So the final part of it is, as I said, I will conclude by learning versus teaching. Both are not same. Teaching we are doing online, but learning has to happen along with it. So technology, that's where it helps. You can actually figure out who is learning, how much are they learning, at what pace they are learning, at their own self-paced learning. And I strongly believe that this COVID for good will have a better technology implementation in education in the various things which I just told. So thank you so much, Sai Charan, for my airspace time.